Welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky. The show will begin momentarily.
Welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky. This is episode 0x59. It's our 90th episode. This week, we have a set of updates, and then we have Trey and Phil on, so it should be a good show. First off, number go up, sponsored by the Music Layer in Den. DragonNet nodes. So we're up to 22, 27 nodes now, and people keep adding them. We really appreciate that, really love it. The decentralization, I mean, we ran a demo this morning that I was even impressed with the speed that we got through the first 4 levels, thanks to you guys. So thanks a bunch there. Next, April 2021 LCP has concluded this morning. There were more than 18 million lore committed, about $16,000. So the top 5 by lore count, the winners were Humor at 3.7 million, NFT Art at 3.2 million, Amazing Views at 2.3 million, History at 1.9 million, and Movies and TV Shows at 1.4 million. And I think a couple of those have been around for at least a few cycles, so it's really good to see them roll in. And kind of thinking of what's going to be next month. It's pretty cool. Also, top 5 by unique voters. NFT Art at 30, Humor at 29, Trading Lounge at 26. So you guys made it. It's good. It's good. Sports Betting at 26, and Movies and TV Shows at 24. So I don't know how many are unique. I can't do it here live, but one way or another, all of those will be created. I think we say probably in the next week or so. Give or take, and we'll be reaching out to the people that proposed and the people that will be the administrators to start with, so that you guys can get the layers set up and everything. So that's the big stuff. There's a lot going on in Den, including some new algorithm changes that have been approved by governance. Should be rolling out soon, and then the next phase of the rollout of the advertising alternative, the Den content boosting features. We have a couple of new, new things that are rolling out related to that, hopefully in the coming week or so. So anyway, be more on that next week, either way. That's it for the updates. We'll be right back with our guests after this.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, welcome to the show, guys. So we have Phil Abraham, founder of Cloudface Technologies, former supply chain executive at General Motors and Dragonchain board member, and Trey Rutledge, Dragonchain sales director and business development. So what's new, guys? How's everything going?
Doing well, thanks.
Doing good today.
It's snowing here today.
What?
Yeah,
Wait,
it's snowing. Yeah, in
No.
Kansas City. Yeah, right now. It's
that's
crazy.
nuts. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Is it snowing in Michigan, Phil?
Well, my phone app says we're supposed to get real bad snow today and tomorrow. It's not yet, but that's what they're saying.
Wow. Okay.
So-
Man. All right.
Yeah.
I actually got some sun recently, so it's been nice up here for whatever reason. Okay. So we have slight format change for everybody who watches every week, where we're going to basically be focusing on different things. It makes it maybe a little more smooth for me, since I'm such a bang up interviewer, that we're just basically organizing everything into topics, and that way it's kind of more roundtable, so you guys can kind of weigh in on everything, right? And so first topic, we're going to start with the advertising alternative. It's boosting, unless we come up with a better name for it inside a den. The purpose is frankly to fit with, how is advertising considered when the platform values content over everything else? That everything is rewarded based upon, and everything is directed towards figuring out which things are the best content. So what this does is it allows a would-be advertiser to come in and create content that is shown to various communities and targeted to various communities, but that basically reduces their cost of that boost based upon the performance of the ad in that community. So if it's and the theory is inside a DIN that any advertisement that is properly directed to a community is actually not an advertisement. It's just content, right? So if you're showing me good content that I want to see, I don't mind it. Now, if you're, show me something that's totally out of context, something that I don't care about, it doesn't matter to me at all. And so the reason we brought this in for this discussion is because we have some potential to get some bigger enterprise clients running into DEN to use it as part of their community, either their community outreach or the way that they handle people giving feedback or anything else. And that what came with some of that was, well, hey, do you guys allow ads, right? And so, well, we don't allow ads, but it is basically you could use it as an ad, right? It is an advertisement, but anyway, so there's a lot there. What do you guys think about this? I mean, I don't know what we can talk about, because some of that's not in place yet that we're hoping for. So,
I mean, the idea of paid sponsorship or paid revenue from, Well, I know that there's talk out there where, people want to, build out a layer and have many, many doctors on there. And as you know, as you can imagine, they immediately Pfizer came up. So, and why is that? Pfizer likes to follow the doctors. And if the doctors are going to be participating in DEN, Pfizer wants to participate.
Right.
Because
right.
There you go. So I don't know.
If the doctors and patients are there, right? Yeah, then
I mean, because the doctors
sense.
write the scripts, and Pfizer loves that, so they'll want to be involved.
Right, and the effect, though, at least theoretically, and we'll see, but the effect would be to maximize their dollar for that they would be producing content heavy advertisement. Basically, it's content instead of an ad. It would, instead of being,
Right.
a commercial or something, it would be, here's something that would be valuable for you to know in this layer, in this community that, we provide, that, we want you to know about. So it's that type of thing. And it was just one of the first, clearly, because when we first built it out, we were expecting, okay, very much it's going to be an organic growth where people are going to be promoting their own posts. There might be some crypto related content. There might be some content that is, more consumer focused, or community focused, I should say, that people want to promote. Maybe it's as an example, Dragonchain. I know that we're going to be boosting stuff in there, and that's kind of natural. People expect that. But when that came up, we were like, oh, okay. And, it's always the same thing. Whenever we design one of these things in a way to envision the bigger picture, I always like to see when we see it hit a real world scenario that is outside of what we had planned for. And then to see, okay, it still works. It still makes total sense. Mm-hmm. There would still be great value in them doing that and everything else. Anyway, so enterprise angle on Dennis. What's that?
It's all about a targeted audience, right? I mean, if it's not spam, if that's relevant to them.
Right. Yep. So from there, and that was kind of an intro straight in, because out of the updates we had a lot of Den stuff. Next topic: the current cybersecurity landscape in America. So you guys have probably a better handle on what people are asking for than I do even here. And I want to see what you guys can talk about, what you want to talk about related to this. What are the big things? I see some of the things both of you tweet and some of the other people in our network, and there's a lot about this going on. So,
well, there's so much going on now in the cybersecurity world. It's very interesting, because a couple years ago, all the talk was, let's continue to use off-the-shelf cybersecurity tools. And that sucked all the air out of the room. That was the story, and that was the discussion. That's it. Now the discussion is, finally, people are starting to talk about, well, all that off-the-shelf cybersecurity tools absolutely, unequivocally aren't working, right? And so that forced, the government at the highest levels and others to say, wait a minute, we better shift not only to blockchain, which wasn't as sexy 2 years ago, we better shift to blockchain. And can somebody create a quantum safe blockchain, preferably wrapped with the polymorphic random number generator that Dr. Al created? And so that's really driving the conversations now. Quantum safe, because everyone accepted the fact that the other things aren't working.
Yeah. Right. And the initiatives that are coming out of the administration are really fast tracking that, that transition.
Right. And I would say when Trey first introduced me to you, Phil, and then you brought in the bigger picture of all of this, I didn't know where we were headed. And, I was more of, I'm the architect. So I'm like, okay, yeah, we could do that. Right. We could do that. And it's been really interesting, because after we got everything put together, I start to realize, oh, okay, this makes a great amount of sense, because, we have both the storage side, which, we up to that point. And, if you use Dragonchain without the quantum safe components, it's up to you. You can do whatever you want with your storage. You can encrypt it. You can air gap it. You can do anything you need. But with this, it was like, oh, okay, this is a massive improvement. No matter where you deploy, a bunch of other really interesting pieces to it. And then when we, went further and worked in the fact that we're using the same algorithms to have the same effect on the signatures between all of the blockchain, all the verification nodes. So in that system, that it becomes really interesting, because now there are a number of different things that because I designed for the architectural side to allow the flexibility and to prevent or make extremely hard a lot of the normal attacks. The 51% attack, the compromising, a couple of systems, various things like that. So we did everything we could to make it as simple as possible, yet to get as much decentralization as possible, as quickly as possible. And adding this to it, though, is just, just totally different world. So go ahead. Do you have any, because are there other things, like, say, where we apply it, I think a lot of people were interested in, where who's asking for this, and not that we can say,
Well, first off, we were on that call just before this call, and he made that one statement about, so now how do I take Dragonchain, and how do I build it out? And he's head of worldwide security for them. So, he's already thinking, the largest car company in the world's thinking, how do I take Dragonchain and build it out throughout my organization? That's kind of a big statement he made, okay? And another thing I want to say that's maybe not as exciting as the largest car company in the world is I received a text last night, and I want to give you a heads up, Joe, that interview from D Business Magazine that they're doing on Dragonchain, they asked for your phone number so they can call you, but they also said there's become an issue about smart contracts in quantum, and they want you to talk, because the journalist is going to call you, they want you to talk about the Dragonchain patent on smart contracts, blockchain, and cyber. So see, it's changing all the time. Right.
Well, and it's funny too, because every time we get, I'm repeating. Sorry, it was like if I pause. Every time we add another component or revisit something that we've already talked about, I realize, oh, geez, the application of the quantum safe algorithms ends up applying to all those different things, which we smart contracts. It changes that picture, because we already have smart contracts. They're already on chain. They already have the same level of verification as any other transaction on Dragonchain, including a smart contract itself. So you deploy a smart contract, you have the proof that it hasn't been modified, that you're running the right code, everything else. But then you also have the proof of the state. And that's why, like, when you bring up, our patent on smart contract orchestration, that it means, first of all, for whatever you're using the smart contract for, that you can chain them together. You can create a full business process, and have, forked processes. You can have, decision tree. You can have anything you would have in a business process. And the beauty is, you can trace that through. So every input and then every output of every process of a smart contract being executed is stored on chain, and anything in between, that if you have ledger transactions in between two smart contracts, those are all. So you can now go back, you can dial back time, and say you had some unexpected situation happen in your systems, and you can say, well, wait, and maybe it was, some crazy, unlikely event that occurred, but you would be able then to dial back time and actually look at the state of that single process, but also every other process on the system. There might be interactions that cause something you've never expected. And the beauty is you can actually see it, you can fix the issue for the future, and you can also have the, have the record, so that if there was an issue, even a legal issue with it, that you can prove exactly how it happened and why, and it reduces risk. So a bunch of neat things there. But then just yesterday when we were talking, I can't remember who we were talking to, it came up about identity, and we hadn't considered to talk to them about identity systems, but it came up, and yes, every one of those identity systems could be backed with the quantum safe algorithm. So there's a lot of really interesting pieces that all play together, and you can turn various things on and off depending upon what you're doing. But to me, it's really interesting, because all of this stuff kind of, as the architectural theory, the whole reason we built this was so it could do what we're seeing now. And it's pretty cool anyway. So, all right. So next up, we have more info on one part of that quantum safe tech, which is the polymorphic random number generator that Dr. Al came up with. He has all of the patents on all of these things, and we'll have him on next week. I don't know how much we want to talk about this. I always am afraid to talk about it because I can't answer with authority, right? So I'm not going to really touch if somebody asks on Twitter or something. What do we want to talk about here? Because there's a lot coming out, and he just got a new patent last week, I hear.
Yep. Number 18.
Right. So, I don't know how this ties in. I mean, Phil can describe it pretty well because I think you have good practice with it, and it's probably been vetted by Dr. Al. Whereas I'm, I understand it from his description, but I don't know if I can describe it in a way that's accurate enough for me to do it. So,
yeah, I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
So, and he's a patent machine, by the way. So Trey mentioned 18. There's probably 47 more that he's noodling through. Because remember, he's got 19 levels of stronger poly-RNG already in place. So if he even can sniff that somebody's getting close to him, he can strengthen 19 layers up, if not more for that matter. So we're going to be safe forever. And then, as Dr. Al says, the lights on planet Earth will go out before someone's going to crack this. And then, and I'm glad Dr. Al is going to be on the show next week. But what I want to say about this is very interesting because this, as people understand that the quantum computers are coming online, so people have to understand solar winds completely devastated our country without a quantum. Now the bad guys are going to have access to a quantum. So you better figure out how to get the poly rocking and rolling in your system and in your blockchain really, really quick is what I'm telling people. And then when you tie in his camouflage and compression, it's really amazing. And especially on the compression, the camouflage, because, and we'll see in the demo, they actually have the demo done. I saw the old demo, not the new one. And hopefully we could show the demo. I'll ask them if we could see the demo next week on the show. But the pixelation of the camouflage, it looks pretty and all that, but there's almost offensive tools built into it that confuses and shuts down the quantum computer. It renders the quantum inept. Yes.
It confuses it, if I remember right.
It confuses it. And it could spin it out because the quantum will try harder and harder and harder and harder until it sucks all the energy out of planet Earth and turns everyone's lights off trying to outsmart this thing. And so it's kind of amazing because you have the battle of the brains. You have the quantum going up against this world-renowned mathematician and his algorithms. And it's really amazing.
Well, I think some of the interesting stuff too is at least in how attacks might develop, because some of the things would be related to data quality. If they can get access to the data, they'll write different data, and they'll be using the same algorithms to write the bad data. But the interesting part is that and we have a couple of example use cases that we usually bring up that they're related around time. A lot of them where this event was placed on chain 3 months ago or a year ago or whatever it was, and I'm going to, as an example, print. I'm going to have a 3D printer on some vessel, and I'm going to print some part. And there's, it's very sensitive stuff, and life and death issues and things like that. And that the beauty is you can actually, before you print that part, you can get a measured value of the likelihood that this data is what you think it is, right? Did this really come from the people that it's supposed to have come from, or did it come from an enemy, right? That things like that are now possible. And all of, adding all of Dr. Al's tech and all the different angles to it is very important to that because it gives you better angles on how, the storage itself, on the keys themselves, on a lot of other pieces that, we had up to this point had kind of left to the devices of whoever was implementing that. You can do whatever you want, and that's the whole point of Dragonchain. But with this, it says, okay, if you just want best of breed, best in the world tech to do these various things, we can now provide that. So to me, it's amazing that we've, partnered with you guys, and that this is all together in one core unit. It's amazing, right? And the fact that it happened that fast, because it's been months. It hasn't been, years we've been doing this. So it's pretty nice. Okay. Next. We have Dragonchain sales update. So, and this one, we can do as we want, and without exposing too much. But
Sure. Yeah,
but you know how this. Right. So
what do you want to know? The number of sales reps? You want to start with that?
First off, because I always get it wrong.
All right.
Every time I shortchange it, right? I think I said 20 the first time I said it, and it was totally wrong.
I think we were at 50 back then, and now we're at 63.
Okay, that's awesome.
63, and then Aquid, they have 30 plus full time, whereas ours some are part time. Some engage more than others. They have 30 plus full time that are DC elite insiders. Really pushing the envelope for us. So that, and then we also have a group of resellers and consultants that is just as powerful as the Aquid team, really. And I can't name names there, but those are people that are every day on private jets setting around the globe, pushing the message. So we while we're sleeping, things are still getting done, and the pipeline's getting fuller. It's getting a little bit crazy, really.
Yeah, the updates always kind of wake me up. When Phil gives something to you and you post it into our chat, and I'm like, some very important, some interesting, very important, scary level stuff that we're seeing. So,
well, what I love to see is that we're fielding calls now. I mean, sure, we're reaching out, but we've had several Fortune 50 and Fortune 500s reach out to us just in the last 2 weeks, and that's a shift that wasn't occurring 6 months ago. Right. So I test a lot of that to bringing Phil and Aquid on and having the quantum solutions, and then having the market being a little bit more mature and a lot less tire kicking going on. People are actually really starting to want to do pilots, want to do projects.
Yeah,
and we're seeing a lot outside of the country too. That's another thing. I mean, right now we've got stuff on 3 continents that is in very advanced talks. I think we'll button 2 of them up in the next 30 days, but they're sizable accounts. They're not mom and pop. So I love to see that.
Yeah. And I want to add to that sales discussion.
Sure.
You should have an 8-second delay on this, because you never know what I'm going to say. So, because I was born with a birth defect, I can't keep a secret to save my life. So, we have that 90-minute call with that major company coming up. I think tomorrow night. It's like an evening call, and they're a major company. They have a PhD from Princeton in computer science that looked at all the blockchains, and he reached out to us. Very smart person. And I think he's got some very big plans for us. By reading between the lines, to Trey's point, they reached out to us, and they're a big company. And and not only that, we talk about trades, talk about resellers. That one big company touches thousands of other companies, not hundreds, but thousands of companies. Big deal. And the other thing I want to talk about sales real quick is, and I'm trying to get people to understand that Dragonchain can be considered blockchain as a service. And then underneath that category, we can look at Dragonchain as capable of doing anything. And this is going to be a problem for Salesforce and Oracle and these guys, and I love them all, SAP, Oracle, I got it. But, since Dragonchain has all these unique patents and patents on interoperability and interchain, companies can migrate to Dragonchain. they can pull their big giant supply chain over to Dragonchain. Dragonchain can, of course, manage all that. Also build the front end customer facing dashboards. So at that point, with the front end facing dashboards, who needs Oracle and SAP and these other guys? So it's going to be a whole nother level of sales for Dragonchain. My opinion, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, in all these conversations, and I think a lot of it, having the team that Trey's put together with Phil and with Aqued and with everything else tying in all the new channels that we had, the stuff in India, the stuff in Europe, that the interesting thing to me is when we get on these calls, it's never a concern of, can we handle that amount of traffic? Can we handle this amount? It's always, more than anything, communications. It's like, how do we describe it so that they can really know how to hit the the real sweet spot that they could see the most value in, right? It's all around that. It's not around it's basically they go through a couple of demos, they look at our history, they look at the architecture. Some of them have pulled the code down and looked at it and everything else before we talk to them as well. But it's great because all of that stuff is kind of already covered. We know you can scale. That's impressive. I want to know more about, how does the economy, sometimes they're interested in the economy because they know about blockchains and volatility of fees and things like that. So we cover that. We let them know that that's we've answered it, that there isn't, we don't have the same issues for economic scalability that other blockchains have because of a couple of subsystems that we put in place a couple of years ago. And that's really interesting to me. And it all ends up being an exercise in communications. How can we describe the capabilities and how can we understand what they need? And that's why, having Phil on board and then, Trey, I mean, it's been really interesting to me as well, because I don't have to be on every call like I used to be. Right. So it's a brilliant. Right. So anyway, what else do we have for sales? I mean, we'll probably start having these regularly, and I don't know how we'll do it, but as stuff rolls out, as we sign stuff, we'll probably start announcing it here, then posting it on Den, then wherever else, right? So yeah. What else?
You're seeing the LinkedIn posts too. It's funny how many times I have people reach out that said, "Well, I saw a post that Phil put up, on carbon tracking or on smart contract orchestration," and it just gets the conversation started. So thanks to the community for keeping all his posts, and I think he just got another 1%er last week. He's 3 or 4 now in a couple months. That we're getting
yeah. I mean, that's true. It's like the getting it out there and getting the word out has always been the hardest thing, because it's so noisy out there, and everything in the blockchain industry anyway is focused on number go up. Everything is focused on arbitrary speculation of a chart and a number. There's nothing to do with, well, what does Doge do? What does it do? Right.
Or misinformation, where they think they understand blockchain because they've seen someone else's model of it, and they think, oh, we get that. And it's like, well, we do things a little different than everybody else. You might want to
Yeah. And half the time we'll see articles even in the past week about that the interoperability is not here, that we have all these blockchains and they can't talk to each other. And we're like, guys, this is the most ridiculous article in the world. But I'm not going to even say where it was. But basically, it's an interesting thing, because I think people are starting to maybe spread out past that and actually read. Some aren't. Crypto Twitter will always be crypto Twitter. You always have some cartoon character shilling some. It's nonsensical. But anyway, okay. Next, let's see here. Next topic. Public sector and GSA schedule. So can you guys explain the status of the GSA schedule as per Cloudface, Aquid, and Dragonchain, whatever you can expose, and then we can talk about what it means. And I have a little bit of background in it as well, because I used to do federal contracting a long time ago, East Coast. So who would be best to tell this story in a way without giving everything away, right?
Trey, do you want to start, or we both can talk? You can start, Trey.
Well, no, I'll let you go, really, because I don't want to say anything wrong, and I think you know a little bit more about the conversation. I've learned a lot of it just through you.
Sure. The GSA schedule, is a very powerful tool. It's the holy grail. Everything starts in Washington, D.C. with the budgets, and all that money trickles down, and then it gets out to the primes and the big guys, Lockheed Martin and them, and spreads out through the country from there. So getting into the Washington, D.C. vortex and getting into the deep inside those GSA schedules is critical. And it's very, very hard to do. And that's why I always stayed away from it. It's very hard to do. But Dragonchain and AQUED, they're in. We're in now. So, and not only are we in this very valuable tool, they're now trying to fine tune where is the best place to also stick us in there, because you have the GSA schedule that's managing billions of dollars of purchase orders. So they have categories, and then they have subcategories. Well, now they're realizing that the poly RNG, the polymorphic RNG wrapped inside the Dragonchain, creates opportunities for them to stick us in some of these other categories that you wouldn't normally think of. So, at 80,000 feet, you say, well, quantum safe blockchain, got it. But then you go down a couple thousand feet, how about data security? Maybe we should stick Dragonchain in the subcategory of data security. And people have to understand, this was done really quickly and driven by our friends at AQUED, and that's a big deal. But more importantly now, the eyes of the world are going into that schedule, and they're looking at it.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Right. And just so you know, and this is pretty much a layman's description, but I've actually in a former company applied for and gotten into one of the schedules, and it was not easy, right? You had to go through a lot of paperwork, and you had to prove all of your price history and everything else, because the purpose of the GSA schedule is to make a place that vendors like us can put a product or a service with already a pre-negotiated price. So the GSA will negotiate that price with the company, and it has to be the best price you've ever given anyone, right? So I have these products, and here's the prices. Oh, I gave 20% off to this company one time, so well, that's the best price. So you have to give the 20% off to the government if you want to sell to the government, and those get enrolled into these categories, into these schedules. There's certain schedules that are related to IT versus I don't even know what else. It's anything in the world that government might buy, trillions and trillions of dollars worth of stuff, right? And that it allows someone in the government to have more flexibility to move faster, to be more efficient in selecting products. So it's like, oh, it's pre-negotiated, I can just go buy that. I don't have to go through a full procurement process that might take me 18 months or something to get someone on board to start building something. I can just go and pay them to build or buy something they've already built, right? Yep. So a lot of really interesting stuff there. And, it's really powerful. I'm not the master at it. I'm happier than you could believe that we have, Phil and AQUED and all of the people that AQUED has on, because that there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand about it, but high level I understand. It's amazing we're in there, and it doesn't mean that we've won any of those contracts. It just means we're again positioned. And now you reach out, and by the way, I've said that before, but I think it was Jamie Campos that he posted that one. It was basically a set of articles, and I can't remember what the source was, but it basically said, here's what we predict blockchain will be used for identity in this year, like 3 or 4 years out. It'll be used for supply chain, and it has a couple of years out or whatever. And for every one of them, he posted a graphic of something we've written about, and it was really interesting because that's I think it kind of highlighted it in a way really visible that everything we're doing is about positioning. And that's from the beginning. The whole reason we built Dragonchain was because we knew that companies will come to value this technology. And it was all a question, back in Bitcoin days when only pretty much all you had was Bitcoin and Namecoin. That when we first started looking at it, that it was not usable by companies. I mean, it was what it was, which is amazing, especially for back then. But it was impossible for a company to actually leverage it. And so we thought, okay, well, how can we make this scalable? How can we make it so that you can control what you expose? How can we, make it flexible so I can integrate a system that I've had written, that's maybe 40 years old, written in COBOL or something? How do I plug these things in? And that's what our whole approach was. Okay, it's all about getting all those things fixed, the scalability and everything else, so that then we can approach these, frankly, and that was the boring part, because it's kind of like that platform is the part that has to be there in order to build DIN and Factor and the supply chain stuff that we're looking at now, and the healthcare stuff that we're wanting to do, and voting, like say the smart ballots. Speaking of public sector, that we're getting a lot of interest and a lot of people asking us about that, and we see it generically as, look, this is a voting system capability with all the key features and a lot of flexibility, so that a corporation could do their shareholder votes with this, just as well as a county or a state could do their full election process, and solve all of the issues that everybody knows are out there, or at least most of them. It's very powerful because that's all about positioning, right? And frankly, all of the day-to-day trader data of charts and everything else is sometimes exciting. You never know. This past week we've had a bunch of downs and ups, generally, but in the wider market. But that's 1 week, and it's a blip on the radar. You fast forward 5 or 10 years. That's what we're looking at. We want to know what's coming and how do we place ourselves in front of that, right? And that's the whole thing. That's the game in the end, because if we get that right, we win. Right. If we get it right, that it's, just game over. We'll have the only system that can do the things that are needed, because we haven't been toying around with all the BS that the rest of the crypto world's looking at. So anyway, that's big picture, I guess. Right.
And on that note, with the public, the GSA schedule, I'm actually looking to the DoD schedule to be actually more lucrative than the regular one. They spend actually quite a bit more monies as well. So just wanted to notate that we are on that one as well.
Awesome. Okay. And yeah, and that I didn't even know about that. Right. So that side of things, I was like, oh, I was surprised to even hear. It makes total sense. Right. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, okay. So those are all the topics. So we're going to basically say, okay, so how can people follow each of you on the way out, and what's going on, and when you secretly sneak some info out that I have to ask you to delete or something, right? So
so I'm on Den Social as Untamed72, and then I'm at Twitter at Trey Rutledge 3, and then LinkedIn, just my name, Trey Rutledge.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I'm in LinkedIn as well, and I'm on Twitter, I think. And so people can, find me there, plus other places too. I don't even know everywhere, but Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah, we need to get you on Den so that you can start earning some matter, right?
I gotta get in Den before Dr. Carlson and those guys take it over with all their doctors and people. But I do want to say one thing before you close up, that that was phenomenal, Joe, on our call before this show, when you went into the blockchain and you went, whoa, that was fast. I never heard you say that before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, normally I do like an eternal demo. I usually do one where I just throw some random text in, and I usually refresh, and it takes, it usually takes 17, 20 seconds. I mean, this time I think it was like 5 seconds or something.
Yeah.
It was all the way up. So
I know.
it surprised me.
And what I loved about that is the call we were on, their biggest problem is everything moves slow. So that was the best time to have you say, whoa, that went fast.
Totally
And I'm
unscripted.
sitting there going, there you go. How's that for speed?
I'm not good at scripted. So, if we could make that scripted, like maybe Trey could do it in the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's everything. Follow us, Dragonchain Gang, Real Denizens, and Jojo Row on Twitter. Definitely go to Den. Den's more important than Twitter, as it will be, and forever and always. It's better. But like and subscribe to this and all the normal things wherever you're watching. And I think that's it. We'll see everybody next week. Next week we have on Dr. Al at least, and possibly one or both of you. I don't know what we're doing next week for certain, but we'll have some. We'll have a good topic that'll probably be a decent amount of technical detail from Dr. Al too. So should be fun. All right.
Good stuff.
All right. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.